Welcome to the Bro Code Podcast. Join Kennedy Lucas, Terry Lester, and Jackson Smith as they break down the biggest plays, share locker room banter, and keep it 100 on sports hot takes. Gear up, because this is where the real talk begins.
You already know what time it is. This ain't just talk. This is the Bro Code Podcast. And I'm your main man, Terry Lester, Mr. Say It Like It Is, coming in hot on this fine June 16th, 2025. We live, we lit, and we locked in for another dope session of real talk, big facts, and no cap. Now, if you're new around here, welcome to the crew, the code, the culture. This is where the streets meet the strategy, where we chop it up on everything from barbershop debates to boardroom game plans, love, loyalty, and leveling the hell up. Ain't no fake vibes here, just brothers and sisters too. Keep it 100, always. So whether you driving through the city, getting that gym grind, or chilling with the homies, you tune into the voice of the real. This ain't your mama's podcast. This is grown folks' conversation with that urban twist. Let's get into it. Bro Code Podcast starts.
Yeah, T, I think we ready to rock. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the Bro Code Podcast, presented by Our Heart Media. I'm ready for our top stories today, y'all. So I've got a lot of things I got to talk about here on the show, but let's get to it. I'm ready. I'm excited.
What it do? It's your boy Jackson Smith, a.k.a. Mr. Slick Talk himself, stepping up to the mic on the Bro Code Podcast. You know the vibe. Young, fly, opinionated, and always ready to break it down with the brothers.
Let's get started. Trailing by a point late in Game 4 of the NBA Finals, the Oklahoma City Thunder's season seemingly hanging in the balance. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander brought the ball up the left side of the Gainbridge Fieldhouse floor. The MVP had the matchup he wanted and went to work one-on-one against Indiana Pacers wing Aaron Nesmith. Gilgeous-Alexander darted left, taking two hard dribbles away from the rest of the Indiana defense. Nesmith stayed on his right hip for a couple of strides with the help of a hand check before Gilgeous-Alexander popped the defender with a sudden, strong forearm across the Indiana on his chest, a forceful enough blow to put the 6'5", 215-pound guard on the seat of his pants in the paint. As Pacers fans protested what they believed should have been an offensive foul, Gilgeous-Alexander gathered his balance while stepping back for a baseline 15-footer as Andrew Nembhard scrambled over for a too-late attempt to contest the shot. The ball splashed through the net, giving Oklahoma City the lead for good with 2:23 remaining in its series-tying comeback win. The most important moment of Gilgeous-Alexander's career was a mid-range jumper, a shot non grata for most in the modern NBA that has been mastered by the league's best scorer. It surely brought a smile to Sam Cassell, the longtime NBA assistant coach whose playing career is best remembered for his since-outlawed celebratory dance, winning 3 championship rings and a mastery of the mid-range. "I gave Shai everything I had, everything in my bag," Cassell told ESPN. "He's just a bigger version of me. Bigger and faster." Gilgeous-Alexander spent only one season under Cassell's wing, but the seeds of the NBA's scoring champion's offensive success were planted during their daily workouts in his rookie year with the LA Clippers. In a league that continues to trend more and more beyond the three-point arc, Gilgeous-Alexander has an old-school game in which the mid-range is the meat of his shot diet. "I know that's a shot that in today's game that they're giving up. They're giving you the 15-foot pull-up shot," Cassell told ESPN. "So I just told him from day one, if this is a shot they're giving, let's be exceptional at this shot. Let's be the only player in the league that can be exceptional at this shot since they're giving it to you. The analytic guys say it's a bad shot, but it ain't a bad shot for him. We worked on the same stuff for days. If anything go wrong, this is your bread and butter." Defenses aren't willing to give Gilgeous-Alexander the mid-range shot anymore, but he's still taking and making them at clips that make him a rarity in any era, especially the modern-day NBA. In fact, Gilgeous-Alexander's mid-range attempts and efficiency have only increased over the past 3 seasons as he has morphed into an MVP and one of the greatest scorers in league history. Gilgeous-Alexander led the league with 32.7 points per game on 51.9% shooting this season. It was the 3rd straight season he averaged at least 30 points on better than 50% shooting, putting him in an exclusive club that includes 2-time MVP Giannis Antetokounmpo and Hall of Famers Wilt Chamberlain, Adrian Dantley, and Michael Jordan. According to Genius IQ shot data, Gilgeous-Alexander ranked second behind only Sacramento's DeMar DeRozan in two-point jump shots made 261 and attempted for 95. This season, Gilgeous-Alexander's 52.7% shooting on those shots ranked second behind only Phoenix's Kevin Durant among players who attempted at least 152-point jumpers. Gilgeous-Alexander joined Durant and Chris Paul, a pair of future first-ballot Hall of Famers, as the only players with at least 250 made two-point jumpers on 50% shooting or better in multiple seasons since player tracking began in 2013-14. As my game's been molded and as I came into my own, I've tried to stick with what works and what's comfortable to me, Gilgeous-Alexander told ESPN. That's one of those things that just has become very comfortable. Then I figure out how to find certain spots in certain situations, and now I just play with it. But it all started with building the comfortability, and Castle had a big part in that for sure. Early in the first quarter, Game 2, Thunder guard Cason Wallace came up to the half-court logo to set a screen, forcing Tyrese Halliburton to switch onto Gilgeous-Alexander. The MVP quickly went to work, taking one hard right-handed dribble to make sure Andrew Nembhard had no chance to recover, and then crossing over glide down the middle of the floor. Halliburton managed to stay in front of Gilgeous-Alexander and seemingly had decent position. For a brief moment, at least, then Gilgeous-Alexander gave him a subtle, strong bump with his right shoulder as he picked up the dribble. Just like that, he had an easy, open pull-up at the dotted line. People don't realize how strong he is, Thunderwing Alex Caruso told ESPN. When he gets a 10-foot and he hits you with a big shoulder and spins off of you, it takes a toll on you. It's harder than people realize. Without being illegal, which is the key. He's never going 100 miles an hour. He always is kind of like just in front of you or allow you to cut him off, so he can counter. He's a very smart player. You're not at the level he is without being an intellectual player. You mix that with the physical stuff, and it's MVP stuff. Game 2 was an MVP performance. 34 points on 11 of 21 shooting and 8 assists, and a mid-range masterpiece by Gilgeous-Alexander. He shot 6 of 9 on 2-point jumpers in the game, 4 of 8 on floaters and layups, and 1 of 4 on threes. He swished mid-range shots from all over the floor over several different defenders. Every one of them was off the dribble, as was the case on 248 of his 261 made two-point jumpers during the regular season. He made Benedict Mathurin dance as he waltzed from the right wing to the left elbow, dribbling the ball with his left hand the whole time. When Mathurin bid on a fake crossover, Gilgeous-Alexander stepped back to an 18-footer on one of his sweet spots. He has several. You have to have multiple spots, Gilgeous-Alexander said. If you have spots going both ways, they have to pick one way and you go the other way and vice versa. The more spots, the more shots, the more variety you have, the harder it is to guard. Gilgeous-Alexander shot over Nesmith a half step away from that same spot, creating space by dribbling behind his back before stepping back. He swished one just inside the top of the key over Miles Turner, who played back in fear of Gilgeous-Alexander slithering by him into the lane. He hit a tightly contested turnaround jumper over Mathurin on the left block, a classic case of good defense, better offense. And he gave Ben Shepherd a shoulder bump to give himself plenty of room for a fadeaway near the right elbow. There's just a variety to his game, Thunder coach Mark Daigneault said. He can get to there a lot of different ways. He'll post. He'll play the pick-and-roll game. He can ISO. He finds it in the flow. I think the diversity of that helps. Then the diversity of his shot profile. He'll pass, get to the rim. He'll shoot threes as well. It's not like he's just a fastball pitcher. He's got a lot of different things that he can go to that keeps teams off balance. There are distinct shades of Lakers legend Kobe Bryant in Gilgeous-Alexander's game. It's intentional. Like many in his generation, Gilgeous-Alexander considered Bryant his favorite player and studied the intricacies of his game. A ton, more than anyone ever for sure, Gilgeous-Alexander said. The way he attacked the game is very impressive to me, and I just think he's one of the most skilled players ever. To have the combination of being one of the most skilled players ever and to be able to attack the game the way he did is why he had such a prolific scoring career. It's no coincidence. The closer I can get to that level, the better off I'll be, It's the blend of size, strength, savvy, and skill that makes Gilgeous-Alexander so hard to stop. He's 6'6" 1/2 with a wingspan of 6'11" 1/2, giving Gilgeous-Alexander the length to get good looks over defenders. He's lean, listed at 195 pounds, but possesses wiry strength, as any defender who has felt his shoulder thud into their chest can attest. Gilgeous-Alexander is a master of angles, as Caruso put it, who uses an array of pump fakes, pivots, and other tricks to create space or bait defenders into fouling him. And Gilgeous-Alexander has a tight handle that Castle told him years ago would allow him to control the game by getting anywhere he wanted to go with the ball. He's just deceiving, Castle said. His speed is deceiving. His ability to jump is deceiving. His whole game is deceiving until he gets up on you. Then you say, man, he is tall. He is stronger than you think he is. Nembhard, the primary defender on Gilgeous-Alexander in the finals, is as prepared to defend the MVP as anybody. They've been competing against each other since they were kids growing up in Toronto. Nembhard knows there are occasions that Gilgeous-Alexander will score regardless of the quality of defense.
So, top story tonight on the Bro Code podcast, ladies and gentlemen. Of course, I have Jackson and T. Of course, I've got to talk about SmackDown and WNBA later on into the episode. But I wanted to go ahead and talk about this certain topic because it has something to do with sports for sure. But it was something that I was able to be a part of this past weekend. So I thought it was just fitting to talk about it here on the Bro Code podcast. Now, you guys know I've talked about it on previous podcast episodes, K.L.P. Aftermath, that this past weekend I was right here in Atlanta for the Battle of Atlanta World Karate Championships. And I wanted to kind of give a deep dive, y'all, because when I told an audience, when I told T that we were getting ready to do Battle of Atlanta, I kid y'all not, he did not know what that was, right? Surprisingly, though, our newcomer, and I'm looking at you, Jackson, our newcomer knew exactly what this was because he heard about it. Battle of Atlanta, let me just tell the audience this fantastic thing that we did, y'all. Battle of Atlanta was quite amazing. This was something that I've never been a part of before. If a lot of people know, we specialize in broadcasting and production, and we do our thing when it comes down to our set and then the audio equipment, cameras, and whatnot. We dabble our thing with that, but I was so excited to do this project because this is something I'm kind of stepping outside of K.L.P. Entertainment and stepping outside of my roots, stepping outside and doing something a little bit different. So I was able to get partnered up with Truth Entertainment and Mahoney Media. And, you know, we text in our group message this morning after the weekend. And he mentioned that, hey, go ahead and tag us up. So, hey, this is what he get a shout out on the Bro Code podcast. Mahoney Media is owned by my good friend, Matt Mahoney, who formed this group of remarkable people who are well experienced into the life production and the sports production. Of course, when it started with GGC, and of course getting contracted to do other side jobs as well. So this was not just your typical college broadcast. This was a whole thing there. And when I signed up to it, guys, I had no idea what I was going to get my mind into. Had no idea what I was going to get myself really into. But I signed up on it because, again, we dabble in production and sports production and talk shows and podcasts and so on and so forth. So big shout out to Matt Mahoney for allowing me to be a part of his team on the production side of it. To do Battle of Atlanta for this year. So I signed up for it. I did my homework, right? I was able to research Battle of Atlanta, and Matt was telling me that it's gonna give you WWE, like UFC mixed with WWE, next to a whole production show all in one go, right? So excited to did that. So of course the day one, and I'll break it down to you guys the full weekend, because I know T, I text you, and when I got home during the setup, It was a long process. So the setup was long. I kid y'all not. This setup was really long. It was a long day for setup, but it was the coolest thing ever. Honestly, it was the coolest shit that I've ever seen in production. It was the highlight. The setup. They had Extreme Sound and Lighting Company come out. They did this little rigging thing that was really cool. It was like the stage with the mats, and that was the ring slash stage. And then they had the light. They had like the lights on the four pillars. They had the whole trick set up there, beamed up there, rigging it up there. Had the lights, the cameras. We put a camera on the one of the sides where you get an aerial view looking down into the stage slash ring, right? The coolest thing was a full setup. Chairs were set up, barricades. We had a control area where we had our production, the main control, the encoder, the switchboard, the audio board, the computers. We had our own little control station there. And it was almost like I called it, and we should have called it this because WWE calls it too, gorilla position. It's technically what it was about. We had our own gorilla position where, we had the camera, we had the computers and switchboards and whatever. And we had the cameras beamed around the area. Big shout out to the residents, Renaissance Waverly Hotel in Sandy Springs, Marietta area, between that area. Very good area to host that event. And, after the lights came on and the rigging was done, the cameras was set, SDI and all that was set and ready to go, it was showtime, right? Got home after setup. It was an hour and 30 minutes because, it had to go somewhere else. And it was a whole day. I was like, man, what did I sign up for? I'm tired. Went to sleep, but the next day, so Battle of Atlanta, they broke it up into two specific shows. And it was kind of cool because it was a 2-night event, but each show, they had their own specific type of show, right? So setup was Thursday. Friday was Battle of Atlanta Friday night fights. I almost said Friday Night Lights. That is the show. Friday Night Fights. And that aspect of it was giving more of MMA, karate mixed to each other. Both opponents for Friday Night Fights, they had their gear on, they had gloves, wrap around their foot, they had a helmet on, and it was mostly kicking, right? It was a kick move that a lot of people do. If you guys, it's on Battle of Atlanta's YouTube channel as well as my IMDb page. You guys can search me up on Google. Look at me, hyping myself up. Search me up on Google. My IMDb page comes up there, and you're able to search. We added the Battle of Atlanta 2-night event on my IMDb page, and on there is the link to the actual stream for YouTube. So Friday Night Fights, it was more of like an MMA, kickboxing type of thing. Like it was, opponents were kind of fighting each other, but not like UFC, right? It's not like they were punching and kicking and beating the living shit out of each other. That's not what happened. It was more of a kick, and then it was kind of a technique that y'all had to do. And once you do that technique kick move, then it was a point, right? If it was a certain specific move that people are performing, then it will count as 2 points. And from the production side of it, the aspect side of it was, it was red and blue, right? So one person represented the red side and another person represented the red side, right? Red side and the blue side. So yeah, one person representing the blue side, one person representing the red side, right? If the red side did a move, they get a point, and then we had lights that light up red, right? If the blue, whoever was on the blue side, did a move and got a point, then they light up blue. So the whole aspect of the production to give the show is remarkable. I tell y'all this because it is a difference. Now, WWE knows this, UFC, any type of sports production show, we know this, where it's a 2-night event, but it's 2 shows running at the same time. And what I mean by that, it is you had what's called the house show and the broadcast. Now, we kind of worked hand in hand, me and my production crew, and I'll shout my production crew out in a second. But we had our own hand to hand working between the house show and the broadcast, but we really focused more on our side, on the broadcast side, because that's what we're more experienced in doing. So it was working with both, right? Working with both house show and broadcast to bring something very, very special. I do have to say we sold out 2 nights, right? That was Friday Night Fights. A lot of people were there. We gave a good show. I got to shout out real quick, and I'll shout out the broadcast team in just a few seconds here. But I got to shout out the commentators, the talent. They were phenomenal. Reed Bronson, I'm probably butchered his last name, but he was like the host of the thing, and you know how like people just got that voice, right? That good MC voice that you don't really want to miss out on, right? Down to there's this sweet young lady. Her name is Anna Glenn. She was the interviewer, reporter, if you will. She was amazing. We got to know her, and her work was just talent. Very, very talented MC talent to come on camera and to interview the fighters, and down to Jackson and Mallory. Those are the two first names, by the way. They were our on-air talent, the commentators, if you will, the play-by-play and analysts, if you will. It was just remarkable that we put on a good show because of the talent and the MC, y'all. So it was spectacular when it came down to that. That was Friday Night Fights. I worked in close hand in hand with the producing and the audio side of things. And then it turned over, right? It turned over. The second night, first night was good. It was a banger. You know, I came home, and luckily there was no traffic in Atlanta the time that the show ended, at Jackson. But we were able to go home and really do our thing out and really, really just have a great time. And then we're turning things over to Saturday, right? Saturday, I gotta say, was Friday Night Fights was amazing, right? But I think there was just something special about Saturday. Again, and turning it over, it was Saturday, Battle of Atlanta, Battle Zone is what they called it. And I think it was very, very special because it was more of a show. We've had a lot of our videos to play. Now, I'm not gonna say, I'll say it. In sports production, there was a lot of hiccups. There was a lot of aggravations. There was a lot of stressful moments during Battle of Atlanta on the production side. I can't say that it was easy enough to where we understood what we were saying, but working with a big team, and there's a saying that my friend Ebony, shout out to her, she says that everything in production, everything that can go wrong will go wrong, and things went wrong. I'll say it, but I think the things that went right outweigh the things that went wrong. I gotta say it. I just have to say. So it turns into Saturday, Friday, Battle of Atlanta, Battle Zone is what they called it. Different show, same concept, same company, but different show, right? It was more of a choreographed type of these movies. Let me tell you, these students, these kids, I gotta say, because it was all types of ages, T and Jackson, it was all just different types of ages. You know, you had as young as 5 years old, as old as over 18, right? There was a mixture of people who perform martial arts and karate and Tai Chi and any MMA, right? There was a whole bunch of age ranges that was competing in the championships, right? You didn't have a specific type of age group for this. You know, you had young kids doing karate and martial arts down to adults. It was the coolest thing. And Battle Zone was different because things that we learned from Friday night, we know to not do it on Saturday, to perfect it on Saturday, right? So that was the first thing. And they had a tribute to, we call them the Roof brothers, you know, Tommy and Toby Roof. They're behind Truth Entertainment that subcontracted us to come help them put this thing together. And they lost somebody in the family, so they did a tribute. It was a big show, and the awards were giving out. And to see down to, this was more of a choreographic thing. My favorite part about Battle Zone for Battle of Atlanta was Saturday. It was the team school choreography. And what that is they had a full organization where they're doing their moves and they have to all be in sync. All of the students that are studying this thing of martial arts, they had to be in sync, and there was 2 teams, right? And they were doing their thing. It was really, really, like I say, because we can cuss on this show, it was the coolest shit I've ever seen, because everybody's choreographing. It was timed. They trained a full year for this thing. And it was for them doing these moves, it was the coolest thing. Again, guys, it's streaming, or it's on demand right now on YouTube. You just got to see it, because just to see that these students, these martial artists have heart, and they learn these things for a full year for this competition to win the competition. It is remarkable. So after Battle Zone, there was a fighter versus fighter, right? Very, very cool when I see fighter versus fighter, because honestly, it's MMA, it's UFC, it is WWE mixed all at the same time. They had an organization there that was sponsored that does stunts, right? Stunt doubles, and it was cool. You got to see it, but it was cool. They had a script where one of their stunt coordinators for the organization is going to be in the crowd, and the hostess is going to talk about it, and he's supposed to say bullshit, right? He's supposed to get the crowd riled up. Bullshit, this is fake, it's not real. He comes up on stage and he does his thing there. Towards the end of that segment, you'll see it in the video, they did WWE, right? They really, like, it was somebody did the power slam, and she said, by the way, in our stunt organization, we teach people how to do professional wrestling. So I can tell they are big WWE fans because they did some moves there. That was primarily Battle Zone. It was a lot of heart. It was a lot of things. The last event was the weapons event, right? So basically, you had a martial artist who had weapons. They had the koma, the staff bow, or a sword, and you're supposed to do your thing, but you can't drop your weapon, because if you drop your weapon, you lose. So that was highly anticipated, and to see all of the martial artists, for every martial artist that might be listening or watching Bro Code Podcast tonight, congratulations. You gave us one hell of a show. I really, really enjoy doing something like that. I think it has been, and I might put my foot in my mouth here tonight, I think it might be approved that we might get the same view again next year, because a lot of people was asking me, would I do this again next year? Most likely I will come back and do this again next year. Just depends. Again, there's a lot of things that can happen between now and 2026, but it was a lot of heart. It was a lot of pressure. It's a lot of work. And before I wrap my segment, because I know, Jackson, you've got something, top story here on Bro Code, I wanted to say congratulations and shout out to everybody that was on the broadcast team. I got a call because I got permission to talk to call a lot of people out here on the Bro Code podcast, and we'll put it on Instagram later. But I got to give a shout out to my close teams that I've worked with previously, whether it was GGC or anything else. Michael, Luke, Ivan, Cody, those great group of people, Coco, those great group of people. We worked with GGC, and then we had some outside work too. I know Michael probably worked a little bit with Pace Academy too in Atlanta. So great group of people to work with. They get it done. Andrew is a part of it. Andrew was more of kind of like the leader, technical director, the leader. He put it together, but he didn't really manage the whole broadcast side of it. He was kind of a runner, but he was like the overall head to kind of point to. And then Luke, shout out to my guy Luke. He was our technical director. He was the guy that controlled everything on the broadcast. I know he was extremely stressed this past weekend because he was the showrunner, right? He was the technical director, putting it together on screen, working with our videographers and our cinematographers. I don't even want to call Chantel, Coco, Marissa, shout out to my girl Marissa. I don't really want to call them cameraman because that's just kind of a niche name. I like to call them our cinematographers, our videographers, because it sounds more professional. But Luke was kind of working with those people, working with Ivan and Cody with their graphics, working closely with me when it comes down to the audio side of broadcasting, when it comes down to switching between house audio to broadcast, making sure our PA sounds good, making sure our talent sounds good, making sure that Anna Glenn sounds good as our reporter, right? So working close hand in hand with that as well, down to Ebony and Hassan. Those are the OGs that I worked with previous at GGC and other projects. I know me and my girl E, we worked when we did the Georgia National Basketball Tournament last December. So again, working with people that I already worked with before, but at a bigger scale, it is quite amazing. Down to who else am I missing? I think that's pretty much it. That was in a part of our team. Oh, Isaac's part of our team. Dustin was part of our team. Make sure that we got our stuff straight. Down to Mr. Matt Mahoney. You know, Mahoney Media reaching out to K.L.P Entertainment and say, hey, you dope. I need help. And for allowing me to be a part of this process. It was really amazing. I hope everybody's able to see social media on us for Instagram. Again, you guys follow us on the social media and you guys can see the behind the scenes of stuff of it. It was really remarkable. One for the ages, one to remember, and to be a part of that. It was just really dope. So like I say, to everybody who wants to dabble on into karate or mixed martial arts, Tai Chi, MMA, I'm probably naming or forgetting some other names for these type of forms and stuff. It is so dope to go to Battle of Atlanta. I gotta say one last thing, and I'll wrap up this part. The crowd is what makes the show. You can put together a spectacle of one hell of a spectacle of a show. The lights, the cameras, the glitz and glamours on broadcast. But I gotta say, it is the crowd that helps make the show, right? The crowd reaction is what helped make the show. And I think it was very good that there was a lot of crowd there, because I was nervous at first, right? I was nervous because how many people were going to attend to this thing, right? But to see that we sold it, and this is not exaggeration, guys, every seat was filled both nights. So that's the dopest thing, right? I can't wait for it. Again, shout out to everybody that was on the team, and we look forward to next year. I gotta say, we look forward to next year.
Shifting gear in the MLB. The trade. The San Francisco Giants acquired DH Rafael Devers from the Boston Red Sox for LHP Kyle Harrison, RHP Jordan Hicks, of prospect James Tibbs, and minor league RHP Jose Bello. It's rare we get an out-of-the-blue trade featuring one of the game's best hitters, and it's even more rare when it happens in the middle of June involving teams in playoff contention. Given everything Devers and the Red Sox have battled throughout the season, his initial anger at being moved off third base when the team signed Alex Bregman, and later his refusal to move to first base when Tristan Casas went down because of an injury. Maybe it's not as surprising as it first appears. The Red Sox aren't immune to controversial moves, having traded Mookie Betts in 2020. But this one certainly will be a fun one to argue about on social media, with enough hot takes to burn off the late summer fog in San Francisco. Let's grade it. For the Giants and new top executive Buster Posey, the impact of this trade is obvious. They get their best hitter since Posey himself was at his peak, and certainly their best power hitter since Barry Bonds, the last Giants player to hit 30 home runs, 2004. A figure Devers has reached 3 times. After beginning the season with 5 hitless games, Devers is now hitting .272, .401, .504 after hitting his 15th home run in Boston's 2-0 win Sunday over the New York Yankees. He has seen a huge spike in his walk rate, boosting his OBP well above his career mark of .349. If that walk rate holds, he's second to Juan Soto in walks drawn. It raises Devers' offensive game to a new level. Of course, Devers has his issues. The Red Sox moved him off third base for good reason. The Giants have Gold Glover Matt Chapman there, so a return to third remains out of the equation for Devers. Giants first basemen have been among the worst in the majors, ranking 26th in OPS, with Dominic Smith getting most of the action lately after Lamont Wade Jr. was traded to the Angels. But the most likely scenario is Devers remaining at DH, with Wilmer Flores shifting over to share first. The other issue is Devers' contract. He's 28 years old and signed through 2033, making this the second year of a 10-year deal that will run through his age 36 season. That puts some degree of risk on his long-term value, but Devers has been a consistent hitter throughout his career. His top 10 similarity scores on Baseball Reference include 3 Hall of Famers in Scott Rowland, Adrian Beltre, and Ron Santo, plus a couple of likely future Hall of Famers in Nolan Arenado and Manny Machado. Granted, those guys were or are much superior defenders, but Devers compares to them as a hitter. He does move from Fenway to Oracle Park, and San Francisco's ballpark is part of the reason no Giants player has hit 30 home runs since Bonds. Devers' career splits are interesting. He has hit for a higher average at home, .292 versus .267, but with more home runs on the road, 120 to 95. He's going to lose some of those cheap doubles he hit off the Green Monster, so maybe his average dips a little, but I think his power will translate just fine. Bottom line, the Giants have been looking for that big middle-of-the-order hitter for years, from Bryce Harper to Aaron Judge to Shohei Ohtani. Now they have won and didn't surrender any of the pitchers on a staff that ranks third in the majors in ERA, the National League West race, and the Giants were just a game back of the Dodgers at trade time. Just got a lot more interesting. The Red Sox have been hard to understand for years now, since the Betts trade, operating more like a mid-major market than the team that had the highest payroll in the majors in 2018 and 2019. Under that lens, this trade is not only the dealing of a disgruntled star with a ruptured relationship with the organization, but coincidentally enough, moving on from a player with the huge salary. The timing will also create minor shockwaves. The Red Sox just swept the Yankees and have won 7 of their past 8 games, getting back into the playoff picture after a disappointing first 2 months. The spin from Boston will be interesting, focusing on Devers not stepping up and putting the team first. And that's not an inaccurate spin, even if the Red Sox have clearly mishandled the situation from the start. They also have all of their top prospects playing for the big league team now, from recent call-up Roman Anthony to Marcelo Mayer to Christian Campbell. Manager Alex Cora has been platooning Anthony and Mayer, which is silly. They need to be playing every day, even if they get exposed a bit against left-handers. Trading Devers opens up at-bats for everyone and helps clear the outfield logjam of Anthony, Jarren Duran, Cedin Rafaela, Wiley Abreu, and Rob Ref Snyder. But they're not going to be able to replace Devers' production just yet. Harrison is a talented left-hander, once a top pitching prospect in the minors, who hasn't quite put it all together in the majors. But he's also still only 23 years old. He had a 4.56 ERA in 24 starts as a rookie last season and has a 4.56 ERA in 23 and 2/3 innings so far in 2025. Boston has optioned Harrison to AAA Worcester, but with Tanner Houck injured and Walker Buehler and Lucas Giolito both fighting ERAs on the wrong side of 5.00, Harrison could be a potential rotation option later in the season. As for Hicks, the Giants tried the hard-throwing right-hander as a starter, but it never really worked, so he'll be in the bullpen. Tibbs was the Giants' first-round pick last June out of Florida State, an outfielder hitting .245, .377, .480 in high A. He might be something, although let's see what happens when he's bumped up to Double-A. Given Harrison's potential upside, it's not fair to completely slam the Red Sox. Devers has a big contract, but it doesn't seem out of line with some other recent deals, such as Vladimir Guerrero Jr.'s $500 million contract. Maybe the Red Sox will take those savings and go after some more pitching help, either at the trade deadline or in the offseason. Still, when you're looking to trade a player because of a broken relationship, it's hard to get fair value in return, and it seems as if the Red Sox came up short here. Maybe this will prove to be the best move for the organization in the long run, but Boston's playoff hopes for 2025 take a hit. Ippei Mizuhara, the disgraced former interpreter for Los Angeles Dodgers superstar Shohei Ohtani, is in federal prison in Pennsylvania, a spokesperson for the Federal Bureau of Prisons told ESPN on Monday. Mizuhara, 40, was ordered to surrender to federal authorities by Monday. He is in custody at Federal Correctional Institution Allenwood Low, a low-security facility, after being sentenced to 57 months in prison for stealing nearly $17 million from Ohtani. Mizuhara was initially ordered to report to prison in March, but a federal judge granted the delay. The reasons for the delay remain under seal. Ms. Zahara's attorney declined ESPN's request for comment, but previously stated that he expects Ms. Zahara, a Japanese citizen, to eventually be deported. The Dodgers fired Ms. Zahara in March 2024 after an ESPN investigation revealed he sent millions in wire transfers from Otani's account to an illegal bookmaker. He pleaded guilty to bank fraud and filing a false tax return in June 2024, admitting that he placed about 19,000 bets with a bookie over a 2-year period and accumulated over $40 million in debt. The bookmaker, Matthew Boyer, pleaded guilty in August to running an illegal gambling business, money laundering, and subscribing a false tax return. He is awaiting sentencing.
Okay, guys, so continue on the top story here today. We did catch a glimpse of the Indiana Fever versus the New York Liberty games. Obviously, it is the season for WNBA. And I watched that, and I'll do a review too, because I watched this documentary on ESPN Plus called Dream On, and it's really, really dope. We'll talk about that in the next Bro Code podcast. We're here to talk about the New York Liberty. Now, I got to root for teams from New York, right? Everybody knows this, because even my barber asked me, what teams do I root for? I root for Atlanta Hawks. I root for I actually do like the Pacers, right? I root for the Fevers a little bit, right? Because I like Caitlin Clark, but I like to root for teams, Atlanta Hawks, any type of Atlanta team, really, because we're here in Atlanta, but my New York teams, right? The New York Knicks, the New York Liberty. I'm more of a Yankees fan than I am a New York Mets fan, but I try to root for the city of New York. Obviously, we have great relations in New York when it comes down to fashion. I've done 3 documentaries about New York fashion in New York. So I love New York, right? Love going every time I go. Now, 10 games into their defense in the first championship franchise history, the New York Liberty look poised to make a run for another ring. Of course, although New York's undefeated start came towards the end of Saturday's 102-88 loss with the Indiana Fevers, who got 32 points from Caitlin Clark in her return to the lineup. We were very nervous. There's been a lot of speculations that a lot of people don't know if the Indiana Fevers were going to be as good without Caitlin Clark. Well, obviously, she had that injury. I honestly think they could have had a chance without Caitlin Clark, but let's be honest, Caitlin Clark is the #1 contender, variable, if you will, when it comes down to the Indiana Fevers. Now, the Liberty team still put together one of the best 10-game stretches in the league history to start the season. As I read my notes here, despite the loss, the New York boasts the second best point difference, right? That was a plus of 15.7 of a WNBA team in its first 10 games, trailing only the 2016 team of the Los Angeles Sparks, plus the 16-point starter, who started 11-0 en route to the title. In addition to Natasha Cloud, she has been helped, right? She has been helped to fill that void left. Of course, with Hamilton's off-season knee injury, within that surgery. That had to be a bummer, too, with the knee injury and the knee surgery, because that is a tough surgery. Now, while Kennedy Burke stepping up to return with the return of Marie Johannes has strengthened the Liberty bench. Now, of course, on the past game stretch here, we were able to take a closer look of some of the questions of the defending champion, including the possibility New York could be better than last year. We love to see it, right? I love to see if a team could be better than last year, then they have a winning shot, right? Teams, they do that. Teams get ready to say, okay, we're not going to be like we were last year. We're going to be better than ever when it comes down to last year versus this year, right? Because everybody wants that attention. Everybody wants that win. Now, where there are any weaknesses of the Liberty and a chance of a WNBA final rematch against the Minnesota Lynx. Now, there's a question that we're going to ask, because a lot of people are asking this. A lot of shows, a lot of sports shows, they talk about it. The question is, do we think that New York Liberties might be better than ever, right? Now, at 8-2 on its way to a 12-2 start, the New York Liberty hardly struggled on the outset in 2024. Yet last year's Liberty's team wasn't as dominant as this season's group has been so far. Speculations has been said. We've watched the game, and I've got to say they've been better than last year's team. I got to say, based off the games that I've seen so far. Right? I know we're still kind of semi-early to the season start. I get it. Now, New York just had 3 wins, right, by more than 13 points in that stretch. Now, get this, Jackson. The Liberty match by game 3 this season have won half their games by at least 19 points, boasting their point difference there. To some degree, there's probably a function of schedule. Now, New York has to play a combined 7 games against the Chicago Sky, Connecticut Suns, Golden State Valkyries, and the Washington Mystics, right? 4 of 5 teams with the lowest over and under win total so far based on the ESPN bet, right, entering the season. Now, ESPN Basketball Power Index rates this, and I'm reading the notes here, rates this the Liberty's schedule to date the WNBA's easiest, right? Because New York can't play itself, they won't totally even out the Liberty's remaining schedule rates 4th easiest, right? But we'll still test them in more than they've ever been tested before. Now, historically teams, they have been as dominant as New York has been to start the season and have translated into hardware. Of the 8 previous teams to outscore opponents by an average of at least 12 points over the season's first 10 games. Now, 6 won championships. One of the others, of course, that was 2016 Lynx, lost to the hotter starting Sparks, leaving, and this is, I'm just going back history, leaving the 2012 Minnesota team to the loss at Indiana in the WNBA Finals as the only team to outscore opponents by such early and lost to a slower starting team in the playoffs. Now, of course, in the 2014 Liberty team, they set the bar at the championships, but there were already reasons to think coming into the season that the New York Liberty could potentially improve on last season. Now, when the team finishes at a 32-8 and went distance against the Lynx in the finals, in addition to the return to the team's top 4 players of postseason minutes, the Liberty were able to add Cloud and bring back Jonas. Cloud has provided the best Laney Hamilton's premier defense and making New York got from departed for Courtney Vandersloot, now landing that the team in both assists and steals. Very, very super excited for this team. I look forward to see what happens to the New York Liberties. I always got to say it on Broco Podcast. I am so happy that the WNBA gets their shine. I'm happy. I'm happy about that because I remember WNBA not being as popular, but now that they're topping charts, they're having millions of viewership on their shows and their games. It is very, very exciting for the WNBA. Again, I'm going to take a closer look for the New York Liberty. I'm taking a closer look on all the ladies for the WNBA and all the teams, but I'm taking a special look on the New York Liberty, as well as the Atlanta Dream, right? We can dream, right? But, I'm looking at the Liberty in different light to make sure that they stay a part of their team. T?
We have been watching the U.S. Open. Oakmont did not need this. It did not need a heavy storm to humble the best golfers in the world and make the toughest test in golf even tougher. So when it came Sunday, the sheets of rain that turned fields of grass into shallow bodies of water, it felt like a twist of the knife to those trying to win a major championship. At 4:01 p.m., play stopped. The 18th green was unrecognizable as water ran through it. Players were taken off the golf course. During the delay, some ate. Some called their families. Robert McIntyre took off his shirt and tried to dry it with an air conditioning unit. Fans huddled under umbrellas or tried to take shelter on 191 acres that feature one tree. Soon after, Oakmont's grounds crew emerged, squeegees in hand, trying to divert the water off the playing surfaces. The rain eventually subsided, and at 5:40 p.m., As play resumed, the leaders quickly realized that the course they had left behind wasn't the same. Once the fairways were soaked, it was very hard controlling the golf ball, Adam Scott said. It was borderline unplayable, but everyone had to deal with it. Despite the squeegees, the fairways were far from dry. Balls landed off the tee and never rolled. Or if they did, they went backward. Contact with the club, be an iron, wedge, or fairway wood, caused a splash. Even Scotty Scheffler barely knew where the ball would go once he hit it. The golf course, already difficult in its setup, became an even harsher test of patience and mental endurance. It's not fun waiting for squeegeeing, and there's really not much rhythm to be had out there, said Cameron Young, who finished fourth. There's wet spots. You just have to guess. There's not a ton you can do. You're waiting for them to squeegee them. But while it's still raining out there, the water is collecting so fast, you're kind of trying to smack it through puddles and see what you get. It's Sunday of the U.S. Open, one of the hardest setups, and the conditions were the hardest of the week, Scott said. Thank God it wasn't like this all week. For a few holes after the delay, the sun emerged, teasing the competitors through clouds. But by the time the final group teed off on the 10th hole, the rain returned. The tournament was no longer about who would surge, but rather who could survive. Even Justin Thomas, who missed the cut this week, posted on social media from home that the course was a little questionable to play. It was a little close to unplayable, but it was doable, Victor Hovland said. The conditions got really, really tough, and this golf course is just a beast. It was a grind. While other players struggled to return to the rhythm they had before the delay, the grind was what J.J. Spawn needed to become one of the most unlikely major winners in recent memory. I try to just continue to dig deep, Spawn said. I've been doing it my whole life. He started the day just a shot behind Burns, but potential quickly gave way to disappointment. He bogeyed 5 of the first 6 holes. On the second, his ball hit the flag and spun off the green. On the third, his tee shot bounced into a bad lie in the rough. When he made the turn, his scorecard read 40. He had a 3-shot deficit, and it felt as if it would not be his day. Then the rain came. The best thing that happened was a reset, Spawn's coach Josh Gregory said. I felt like I had a chance, a really good chance to win the U.S. Open at the start of the day. It just unraveled very fast, Spawn said. But that break was actually the key for me to winning this tournament. Spawn's career has been defined by exceeding expectations. He was never a highly touted prospect or a star in the making. As he said Sunday, he was never groomed to be a professional golfer, nor was he expected to win a major. He won his first PGA Tour event at 31, and until this year, he was one of many journeymen whose primary goal is to keep their PGA Tour card. This year, however, Spawn has made a leap, heading into this week. He was 15th in the world golf rankings, and he had entered the spotlight when he lost to Rory McIlroy at the Players' Championship in a playoff. He was right there, Gregory said. I think that proved to him that, hey, I can do this. I can be one of the best in the world. I can be a rival. I can win a major championship. Having come face to face with disappointment not so long ago, Spawn appeared unfazed by bad breaks and bad weather Sunday. On a day that required something beyond sheer talent, Spawn knew where to find it. I think it's just perseverance, Spawn said. I've always kind of battled through whatever it may be to kind of get to where I needed to be and get to what I wanted. As the final groups hit the home stretch, the rain picked up again. The breeze whipped the precipitation from west to east, giving Spawn one final challenge. Oakmont's 18th in another downpour. 9 years ago, Dustin Johnson stood on that same tee attempting to close out his first major win and played the hole immaculately. A fairway, a green and short birdie putt later, he had conquered Oakmont. On Sunday, Spawn split the fairway. He found the green and then, under an umbrella held by his caddy, he took his time reading the 64-foot putt. All he needed to win his first major was a par. All week, players surmised that if anyone shot even par for the tournament, they might emerge with the trophy. Spawn was on the brink of doing that. But as Oakmont showered its competitors with one more exhausting challenge, Spawn struck back. I didn't want to play defensive, Spawn said. The puck began to roll across the undulating green that has given countless players fits in its 124-year history and left to right toward the iconic Sunday pin. Dead center. Birdie, are you serious? His caddy Mark Heron said as he walked up the stairs to the clubhouse. What the F just happened? Spawn was not just the last man standing. He was the only one who finished under par. The lone red number by his name will be remembered. For Spawn, it is proof of many things. His ability, resiliency, and of how he battled everything the golf course, the weather, and his psyche threw at him over 72 holes. He's an overachiever, a grinder, Gregory said. That should validate to him that he's one of the best players in the world. For Oakmont, the one under might be bittersweet. The course might not produce a winning score over par as its membership craved, but over 72 holes and 18 arduous one Sunday, it once again delivered the golf world a rightful winner.
So as the main event of the Bro Code podcast, fellas, y'all know we got to do. We got to talk about WWE, of course. The latest episode that we've watched, obviously, was SmackDown. Tonight, we're going to be watching Raw, and I'm going to review it on the K.L.P. Aftermath podcast tomorrow. So SmackDown, very good SmackDown. John Cena, John Cena was everywhere. Rightfully so, and I say that I was able to catch SmackDown. I had to rewatch it. Obviously, we were doing Battle of Atlanta on Friday and Saturday, so I had to catch a glimpse of it and rewatch it on Sunday. But after Father's Day, shout out to, and by the way, happy Father's Day, belated Father's Day to all the fathers. I know y'all two are not fathers. I'm not a father, but to everybody who celebrate Father's Day, it was a great time too. I took my dad out, and it was great. I'll talk about it on KLP Aftermath. So, John Cena was the highlight of SmackDown, right? He made appearances technically twice in the arena. Very, very historic, very, very cool thing to see John Cena do his thing for sure. A lot of call outs, it was a lot of call outs for John Cena. Randy Orton wants his spot. LA Knight wants that spot. CM Punk wants that spot. Cody Rhodes wants that spot to be the champion. It really gets me going. It really gets me going to see that if John Cena wins out this title, and this is just a speculation, this is just a thought. I wonder, are they planning on redesigning the championship belt? Right? Because I feel like they've done that kind of before when CM Punk left. He left WWE with the belt and they gave us a whole nother new look to the belt, right? I think that's what they might be thinking. Like, let's redesign this belt, right? John Cena wins and takes that current back with him, but then there's a new design for a totally different new belt, right? That's kind of what I'm kind of picking up from SmackDown. From the storyline of John Cena said, hey, I'm going to retire with this belt, right? So that's kind of what I see happening. Maybe I might be wrong, right? I might be wrong onto this for sure. Of course, Jacob Fatu addresses his actions on Money in the Bank. Again, finally, I'm glad, right? I liked the gimmick, the angle of Solo, I love you, right? They're part of the old bloodline, right? Or excuse me, the new bloodline. But I'm kind of glad that Jacob Fatu is taking his time and he's going his own route, right? He is U.S. champion, so now it's time for him to switch it up and do his own thing. Now, Naomi celebrating her Money in the Bank win. I got to say, finally, I'm glad. I'm glad that it happened. I'm glad that we're ready to do it. I'm glad that after 5 Money in the Bank events that Naomi has done, she finally wins Money in the Bank. I think is rightfully so. I think it's time for her to do her thing. Cody comes out to address John Cena along with LA Knight, Randy Orton, and CM Punk comes in later on that show. It's really funny when I hear, I'm not laughing at Cody Rhodes because I'm a big Cody Rhodes fan. Obviously, he's from here, Atlanta. That lisp he has, the lisp, you can hear it, and it's just like, it's like, very, very good. Now it came down to the LA Knight, Randy Orton, Carmella Hayes, and Aleister Black for the King of the Ring qualifying match. Now they're going to be at Saudi Arabia for King and Queen of the Ring. Very, very notable match for sure. They gave the match a B minus. Now it took only until 34 minutes into the show before the bell rang for the first match. That seemed excessive even for WWE. But the way that Knight knocked out Hayes, I saw it. Dropped a drop kick through the ropes. Looked brutal. Hayes sold it perfectly. Now the exchange of all four men had near the announce table. Was really, really fun to watch. Orton defeats Knight and Black and Hayes. I'm glad. Again, and this is tricky because I am a fan of Randy Orton, right? Oh, he's legend, OG, old school. But I do like the reigns of LA Knight, right? I think LA Knight's championship match is coming soon, right? I really do think that. Of course, Braun Breaker does come out. Obviously, Money in the Bank, LA Knight interfered with that match. So, of course, Braun Breaker's going to do his thing there. Then the next match you had Jade Cargill versus Piper Niven, Nia Jax, and Michin, right? For the women's qualifying match. Of course, the crowd was really embraced for Fatu. He is already over on the babyface and for at least for the week. Of course, very, very excited for that. Michin, she hits a nice Hurricane Rana. She actually hooks her legs and her head inside and just putting her legs through the shoulder. Of course, Piper and Nia Jax could be a distant tag team, but of course, Jade Cargill came out on top to defeat all three of the ladies. I'm glad, I do want to see more of Jade Cargill. I think the thing with Jade Cargill, and it's a little tricky for me, the thing with Jade Cargill is I want to root for her, but she hasn't been doing as much as I thought, right? When she first came, I think it was last year's Royal Rumble when she made that appearance, and it was cool, but I haven't seen that much from her lately, right? Maybe with the injury, that's part of the story with the injury, and then I've read on articles that she's making her acting debut, so maybe she got booked to do that while she was injured, and then now she's coming back. I do want to see more of Jade Cargill in the life of things, I really do. But we'll have to wait and see. Motor City Machine Guns versus Wyatt Six, of course, very, very good. Gracie hits a moonsault with a little over the center, but it still looked good. Loomis is such an underrated performance, and what people are saying. It would be nice to get him some chances and show off the single matches for sure. When it comes down to it, the Wyatt Six defeats the Motor City Machine Guns. Love that team. Nick Saban. Nick Saban's my favorite because he reminds me of an older person, but it just works out really, really well. Of course, Truth shall set you free again. Truth comes out and attacks John Cena twice in one night, of course, after the banter between LA Knight, Randy Orton, and Cody Rhodes. John Cena goes on to say, hey, bunk this, don't want to do it. But then R-Truth comes out and attacks John Cena. I do like this new R-Truth, by the way. I like it. I think Busted Open podcast has been talking about it, right? So I'm going to talk about it here. It is really, really dope to see Ron Killens doing his thing and just being not even the bad guy, really. He's kind of the hero, but just kind of an edgier version of R-Truth. I do agree, because I've been watching the Busted Open podcast, Bully Ray. I do agree with Bully Ray's saying, right? When we first saw that R-Truth cut his hair and the truth to set you free, I do agree with Bully Ray and say, I don't want to hear any more about R-Truth, right? If you're trying to sell me on the dangerous Ron Killens, you got to let R-Truth go, right? I agree with that, right? Because it's a story thing. It's no more R-Truth. It is respect my name, Ron Killens. The badass, he's getting more dangerous, right? He's performing more into this thing. That's what I want to see. I do. Now, again, you had Charlotte Flair, Aubrey Fire, Alexa Bliss, and Candice LeRae. B-, they're giving this thing here for sure. Very, very good to see that happen. Now, something looked off about the sequence when Flair countered a double back body drop on Fire and LeRae. It seemed like someone forgot what they were supposed to do, and it was hard to tell who it was. I hate it. I hated that if a superstar forgets their spot, and it's noticeable too when superstars forget their spot, it doesn't look good on camera. But Bliss defeats Flair, Fire, and LeRae. I'm glad. I'm a big Alexa Bliss fan. Very, very good to see her win her victory for the qualifying for Queen in the Ring. Charlotte Flair, I don't know. Cody Rhodes, Damian Priest, Shinsuke Nakamura, and Andrade. Of course, they gave that a B+ for the matchup. Of course, Rhodes and Punk had a brief interaction before backstage. They shook hands, but indicated they would likely end up facing each other down the line. I want to see that happen. Nakamura tripping both Rhodes and Priest on top of the rope with one kick was kind of funny to see. But all in all, within that match, Rhodes defeats Andrade, Priest, and Nakamura. Very, very good for Cody Rhodes. Back from vacation, back from spending time with the fam here in Atlanta, back from going to Disney World or Universal. Now he's back ready to work. Very, very cool to see that happen when it comes down to it. I'm really, really stoked to see that. And towards the main event, of course, John Cena comes back out. He's fired up. He's pissed off. He's mad because of R-Truth's interaction. Ron Killen's interaction. CM Punk comes out, does his whole fire spit thing. They did a really, really good monologue. But then towards the end of it, Ron Killens comes back and do the AA on John Cena, and it was the coolest thing ever. So, long and behold, for SmackDown on Friday, it was a great show. They had some great, powerful matches within SmackDown, so that's really, really cool to see. I can't wait to watch Monday Night Raw tonight to see what happens, so we can talk about it on K.L.P. Aftermath tomorrow as well. That's going to do it here on the show, Bro Code Podcast. T. Jackson, it's always a pleasure to have y'all a part of the show, Bro Code Podcast, from all three of us. We hope that you guys enjoyed tonight's show. And please remember to like, comment, subscribe if you're watching it on any audio, video kind of platform you're watching us from. Thank you. If you're listening to us, we thank y'all for that as well for the Bro Code Podcast. That's going to wrap it up here. T. Jackson, always a pleasure. This has been the Bro Code Podcast saying so long, stay safe. We'll catch y'all in the next Bro Code Podcast episode. Peace.
Welcome to the Bro Code Podcast. Join Kennedy Lucas, Terry Lester, and Jackson Smith as they break down the biggest plays, share locker room banter, and keep it 100 on sports hot takes. Gear up, because this is where the real talk begins.